What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we had just talked about the situation with Nintendo and Yuzu, how there was an extension being filed so they could properly respond. Well, they must have looked over things pretty quickly, and their lawyers came back because it's over, and Yuzu, as well as another popular emulator, are just gone, and we're going to go over all of that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Microsoft as they have an Xbox showcase set up here, actually here pretty soon, and then we're also going to be talking about Nintendo preparing for Mario Day this weekend, as it looks like they have quite a few announcements set up. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below, and of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early and ad-free. If you want to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with EA, BioWare, and Dragon Age, which is a highly anticipated game that's been anticipated for, well, years now, as we've been waiting to see the game itself, and it now seems that they're at least planning to release the game in 2024. This according to Jeff Grubb, which we can see this transcribed. This is over on Eurogamer. Jeff Grubb saying, I suspect Dragon Age Dreadwolf will probably pop up this summer. I don't know when it'll be shown, but I assume it will be shown sometime this summer. Could happen at any time, though. It will be released this year, last I heard. They're pretty confident about that. Doesn't mean it's a guarantee, could slip, but right now, internally, they expect to release it later this year. And I mean, I would hope so. It's been a while. I mean, like 4 or 5 years. It's been a bit since they first announced it. And remember, we're also waiting for Mass Effect after Dragon Age, so I would hope that they can get Dragon Age out this year so that we can get Mass Effect this generation. I mean, it's still gonna be a couple years for that to come out, but I'm also hoping that with how much time has built here and the anticipation continues to mount, that they're able to live up to it with Dragon Age, because somehow BioWare is a little concerning right now. I sort of feel like they're kind of on thin ice within EA, especially after what we've seen recently with layoffs hitting the industry. Also, we had the conclusion now for a very weird situation that hit Epic that is kind of similar to what we've seen with other companies like Sony and Insomniac with ransomware happening. Well, in this case, it went in a completely unexpected route, which we can see. This is posted up over on VGC, who is kind of chronicling the entire situation here, where a group by the name of, I would say, Moglovec, they posted a message on its darknet leak site saying that they had compromised Epic Games for email, passwords, full name, payment information, source code, and a bunch of other data amounting to a total size of 189 gigabytes. Well, Epic did respond to VGC and said they had zero evidence that these claims are legitimate, and now Cyber Daily reports that Moglovec has admitted that it didn't have any of Epic Games data at all. And apparently they were carrying out a different type of scam, as in they were going to sell fake information to scammers or people online who obviously seek out like information for people's identities and credit card stuff, that sort of thing. But now people are asking, why would they admit that, other than they thought they got something, they didn't. Like, they thought they got some of their Epic Games, and they didn't get it, and now they're trying to cover their tracks by saying, oh yeah, we were trying to scam the scammers. That was the plan. I don't know if I necessarily believe that one, but either way, they just wasted a bunch of people's time, and I guess Epic didn't actually get hacked. So there you go. Oh, and it looks like we have another remaster that could potentially be happening here from Sony, and this one I think might go over a bit better than some of the recent ones we've had, even out of like Naughty Dog, which we can see this posted up. This is over on Insider Gaming. And they say the news comes courtesy of Orangey. They're through Team Alua, Gravity Rush Discord server. Now, what's interesting about this is the user has said that Gravity Rush 2 Remaster will be first coming to PlayStation 5 with a PC release following some point thereafter. They had also mentioned that there would be some sort of series or movie or something in development. That did happen, obviously, which surprised everyone, but it would make sense for there to be a remaster. I didn't get as into the Gravity Rush stuff as other people did, but I think it'd be interesting to see if they got a remaster, if people would maybe be more responsive to it than they did when it first came out, because no one really bought it, and that's one of the reasons that things like Japan Studios got shut down. But yeah, I'd be interested in at least to check it out and see what the remaster entails. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Yuzu and Nintendo, as that case seemingly is all wrapped up, which is crazy to think about because I thought this was going to be going on for the good part of this year as Yuzu and Nintendo battled it out in the courtroom over emulation that hanging in the balance. Now it seems like Yuzu was told, you might want to settle this really quickly, and they did. So we can head over here to The Verge, who did a very good write-up summarizing all of this because there are, of course, a ton of legal documents to go through, but just kind of the cliff notes here. According to a joint filing, Tropicaze has not only agreed to pay $2.4 million to Nintendo, but also says Yuzu is primarily designed to circumvent and play Nintendo Switch games. Company agrees to be permanently enjoined from working on Yuzu, hosting Yuzu, distributing Yuzu's code or features, hosting websites, and social media that promote Yuzu, or doing anything else that circumvents Nintendo's copyright protection. They go on to say it will surrender the yuzuemu.org domain name to Nintendo, agree to delete not only its copies of Yuzu, but also all circumvention tools used for developing or using Yuzu, such as the Tegra RCM, GUI, you can see all the different ones here, including Lockpick, ND Dump tool, etc. And I mean, those are all tools that were just used in general for really setting up emulation correctly for the Switch on PC with Yuzu and really others. And they also have to hand over any physical circumvention devices and modified Nintendo hardware to Nintendo. It also agrees to not delete any other evidence that infringes Nintendo's IP rights. On top of this, we do have a statement that was released over on Yuzu's Twitter account, and I believe in their Discord. They say, "Hello, Yuzuers." Is there a nickname for Yuzu? Users? Okay. And Citra fans, we write today to inform you that Yuzu and Yuzu support of Citra are being discontinued effective immediately. Yuzu and its team have always been against piracy. We started the projects in good faith out of passion for Nintendo and its consoles and games, and we're not intending to cause harm, but we see now that because our projects can circumvent Nintendo's technological protection measures and allow users to play games outside of authorized hardware, they have led to extensive piracy. In particular, we have been deeply disappointed when users have used our software to leak game content prior to its release and ruin the experience for legitimate purchasers and fans. We have come to the decision that we cannot continue to allow this to occur. Piracy was never our intention, and we believe that piracy of video games and on video game consoles should end. Effective today, we will be pulling our code repositories offline, discontinuing our Patreon accounts and Discord servers, and soon shutting down our websites. We hope our actions will be a small step toward ending piracy of all creators' works. Thank you for your years of support and for understanding our decision. So I think it's important to note here that they're also mentioning Citra, which is a 3DS emulator that I believe most of the team behind Yuzu had worked on prior, but obviously the Switch, we know how much it exploded in popularity, so they saw obviously money to be made there with Patreon, but also a really popular emulator that they were able to create with Yuzu. And yeah, it's the most popular one. There's also Ryujinx that people use, but at this point, Yuzu is gone. I mean, like they snapped that thing out of existence quickly yesterday. Apparently they're handing over the URL, which Nintendo did ask for, as we went over some of those the filings that was put out there online. And at this point, Yuzu, Citra, both gone. I think a lot of people were looking at Citra like, really? It's for the 3DS, and at this point, Nintendo treats the 3DS as just legacy in general, whereas the Switch it's still their primary system. It's the one that obviously they market behind, they sell hardware, software, so I guess people can look at that and say, yeah, obviously there's a case there for piracy as Yuzu themselves. While that was clearly being written up and looked over by a team of lawyers, is basically admitting that, yeah, Yuzu is being used to pirate modern games. But Citra, that one stings a bit. Now, obviously, these emulators, the internet doesn't forget, and I'm sure they're still being re-uploaded all over the place, and it's not like it's gonna be impossible to find at least the latest version of Yuzu before it was pulled down, or Citra, but still, there won't be any more updates going forward, which means that, yeah, if like another game comes out and it doesn't work correctly, before you would apparently go to Patreon, and sometimes they would have fixes behind paywalls. That's at least right now is the word going around as to how this was, I mean, basically open and shut case for Nintendo. And really the way I saw it with how that they were setting this up they were leaning more on DMCA opposed to anything else around that emulator. And it's one of the reasons that I thought they actually had a fairly strong case, whereas a lot of people said that there was just no case. I didn't think it was that cut and dry on that, and seems like, well, that's kind of the way it went here. Now, people are, of course, wondering, what does this mean for all these other emulators out there, whether it's different 3DS emulators or Switch emulators, as that seems to be the main focus here. And really, it's hard to say at this time. I kind of feel like if Nintendo wanted to go after Ryujinx, they would have by now, considering they obviously spent a lot of time, effort, and money to build this case against Yuzu. You feel like they looked into Ryujinx as well. It's just, Yuzu was kind of set up to be a bit more of a home run for Nintendo because of the Patreon, because of the ability to link it to piracy and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being downloaded over 1 million times, but they were also doing fixes apparently on their Patreon, and that, along with Discord message and stuff, it just seemed like it built a strong case for Nintendo there, as opposed to, who knows with Ryujinx. But I will tell you this, looking forward, if these creators, these developers behind emulators weren't already looking over their shoulders for a Switch or a 3DS, I feel like they kind of are now. Like, oh, okay, this is kind of concerning. What does this mean for us going forward? Is it worth continuing forward? And obviously, when Nintendo's next system shows up, is it worth making an emulator for it? And we're not really going to fund it with Patreon because look what happened there. And that's one of the big things Nintendo, I'm sure, wanted to do here. Send a message, plant the seeds of doubt. And I kind of feel like they've done it. But $2.4 million, I mean, that's a lot of money, obviously, for the Yuzu team. For Nintendo, no, I doubt they even really care about that. Again, all about sending a message, and they did that much faster than I was expecting. I will at least point to one positive here for just emulation in general with the outcome here between Nintendo and Yuzu, and that's that they settled and they didn't go to court and test DMCA versus emulators or emulation, because that could have gotten kind of ugly just for the entirety of the emulation scene, as a precedent would have been set if Nintendo had one. In this case, because they settled out of court, DMCA still has not been tested and tried in kind of the world of emulation. So I guess that's one positive to look at. Next up, let's talk about March 10th, also known as Mario Day, as typically Nintendo will at least have some sort of announcement around that, and sometimes it can just legitimately be sales on the eShop or in different stores, and sometimes it can be full-on announcements for different games or collaborations with partners, and it sort of looks like we're lining up to have both of those happen this weekend, because remember, Mario Day falls on a Sunday. Well, we can see this was posted up by Pyoro, who's been pretty good. Their accuracy is like 98% now, as they kind of missed, I think, actually recently on one thing. But again, a lot of the stuff they've gotten right, I leaned towards them being correct here as well, where someone was talking about Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door, hoping they'd drop more information March 10th for Mario Day. And well, Pyoro says it does fall on a Sunday this year, but I mean, you never know with Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door, and also this one. So we know there is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. That's supposed to be coming up this year, summer 2024. And then who knows with Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door. However, I am kind of thinking, so I kind of feel like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, I don't know if there's going to be substantial content or anything attached to it. Maybe an extra mode or something, better visuals. Paper Mario the 1,000-Year Door, I'm kind of looking at that, wondering if Nintendo has a bit more up their sleeve for that title, is what I'll say on that one. So that could make for a pretty interesting announcement if indeed they do that this Sunday on March 10th. Now, as for collaboration with partners, there appears to have been a little teaser, about 5 seconds, that was posted up by LEGO. And they say there's going to be a special event they're going to be hosting, and it's going to be all about Mario on March 9th. So at this point, I'm sort of expecting them to maybe announce at least 1 or 2 new big Lego sets. Or I know there was like Animal Crossing stuff that was happening. We know that there's going to be some Donkey Kong stuff at the theme parks, but who knows? They could go in any direction for this announcement. Obviously, I feel like it's going to stay in the Mario universe, but they could pull from all different characters there. Nintendo also does appear to be counting down to Mario Day, as they posted this up here, which is sort of funny considering they just took down an emulator with Yuzu, and they're showing Super Mario Brothers running on an emulator for NSO. So there you go. Just want to remind you that it is available through their own house-developed emulator. But hey, either way, it should be an interesting weekend for Mario Day. Generally, they'll do sales, but in this case, we might have some pretty cool announcements, so we'll have to keep an eye out this Sunday. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Microsoft, as they do have an Xbox partner showcase set up for tomorrow. This was posted up over on their news.xbox.com site. And the Xbox partner preview will be happening March 6, 2024. So that'll be 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. They say this time featuring a mix of new and upcoming games for you from publishers like Capcom, Nexon, EA, and others. In fact, they say there'll be more than a dozen new trailers over the course of a 30-minute broadcast. And it sounds like they're going to move from trailer to trailer. They say there's going to be no frills, just new game reveals, release announcement, and fresh new gameplay from upcoming games, coupled with unique behind-the-scenes stories from developers on Xbox Wire. So they'll have an entire write-up here just to give a bit more information behind certain titles. They do point out a few like Tales of Kenzera, Kunitsugami, and then the first Berserker. So there's at least a few that we'll see there. But I mean, this should be interesting. Doesn't sound like it's gonna be much from Microsoft themselves or their first-party studios, but with Capcom or EA there, I mean, Capcom, I guess, could do something with Street Fighter, Exo Primal, some of their live service games most likely, and then Dragon's Dogma 2, which is coming up here in a few weeks. I'm sure they might have another showing there just to remind people that it's coming up. But hey, something to look forward to tomorrow. And before we go to the comments of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you played the Gravity Rush series at all? Okay, so 70% say no, 30% say yes. And yeah, I would expect many more people would have not played this series as opposed to have played it. And that's one of the reasons I think a remaster would actually be pretty cool to see happen. Even if it's for the second one. I never really got as into the Gravity Rush series as I see many people say they did. I do have access to them. I just haven't really gone back to play through them. I feel like the first one on my Vita, and then the second one I do have right now on the PlayStation 4. So I'd be able to obviously play that backwards compatible on the PS5. But hey, if this Gravity Rush 2 remaster maybe comes out over the summer or something, maybe I'll pick that up and check that one out. But yeah, let me know if you've played either of those down below, or if you played none of them, are you interested in checking it out? And we'll finish up with the comments of the day. We'll start with this one here. This is from Black Fox saying, Sony refuses to stop coming up with the ideas on how to kill already unremarkable gamepad battery life even faster, I guess. Yeah, I saw people mention that right away. The idea that, oh, now they're going to add something else into the controller with a battery life that's already, as you mentioned, unremarkable. Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 hours for the DualSense controller. I think it's like an hour less for the DualSense Edge, whereas the Xbox and the Switch controllers are just significantly better than that. And the Xbox obviously run off just two AA batteries. I'm a little surprised Sony hasn't really done much at all, unless they think that a 5 or 6 hour battery is enough because people aren't necessarily going to play longer. Like, there are people obviously who will play for much longer periods in maybe a day that they have off. There's like, I'm playing games all day. Or if you have like a weekend and you're hanging out playing with some of your friends for multiplayer games, sure. But I feel like that's kind of what they're banking on, is you'll play for 2 or 3 hours, then you'll stop and plug it in or drop it on your charger. But still, I wouldn't mind Sony putting a little bit of that R&D into getting 15 or 20 hours of battery life out of their controller. And we'll finish up with a comment from the members video. This is from Arachna saying, I do kind of miss some load screens because of the tips or world character lore they would sometimes do, as well as often being treated to alternative artwork. Of course, most companies didn't do this. It was always a very pleasant thing when it was implemented. Yeah, I mean, that was cool. Sometimes you're right, it would just be a static image and a bar would fill up, and that was kind of boring. But other times, you even have interactive load screens. Like, I remember the one from Dragon Ball Z Budokai, where you'd have to rotate the stick and like the Cybermen would pop out of the ground. Those were always fun. And recently, Helldivers 2, there is still a load screen technically, everyone kind of syncing up, getting to the planet's surface, and they'll have like fun little comments and satire there on the screen. And That's great, but yeah, it was kind of hit or miss if you got a good load screen that was interesting or one that was really boring and you just waited for the bar to fill up. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the situation between Nintendo and Yuzu wrapping up very, very quickly. Were you expecting that outcome to happen just 24 hours after they filed for an extension to respond? And then also, what about Mario Day coming up? Are you excited to hear about maybe Paper Mario, the 1,000-Year Door? And then Microsoft's big Xbox partner showcase happening tomorrow. What are you hoping to see? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.